Everybody, welcome back to 3+1, the podcast, where we talk about people, politics, and pop culture. And today we have for you a really great show that takes a look at the roaring comeback of President Joseph Robinette Biden as he has delivered a powerful State of the Union and has hit the campaign trail moving forward swiftly into the November 2024 election against former President Donald J. Trump. I said earlier, gentlemen, that this was a roaring comeback. And Cedric, you burst out laughing.
Right.
Yeah, because I feel like it took him 6 IV bags to even stand up there. And the point that I was making to you was that we don't need a president that has been recycled through decades of a political career. We need someone who is relatable as a U.S. American citizen. And Biden is not that. And I think we are literally drinking from an empty water hose here because the man is old and he's dilapidated. And it's concerning that he can even really healthily run this country.
Well, Senator Katie Britt, who in her Republican response to President Biden called him dithering, you just now added to that dilapidated. When you say that you want a president who's relatable, you're really saying, I want a president who's relatable to me. And that's what I hear a lot of our Gen Z brothers and sisters saying is that I want. Let me finish. And I stand to say, President Joseph Robinette Biden isn't my age. He doesn't want for America everything that I want for America. I'm a progressive liberal. And so what I want in some ways differ. They're not the same as what President Biden may want. It may not be the same as what the agenda is. But I'm old enough, Cedric, and I'm wise enough to know it's not about me and it's not about relating to me. It's about what's best for this country.
Zack, I'm going to challenge that point.
And let me finish. And when you talk about his age, it's easy to do that, but I like to instead talk about his wisdom, his experience, and his accomplishments. Why are we constantly refusing to talk about what this man has accomplished in his 3 years as our president? In 3 years as president of these United States, he has brought this country back from the brink of financial disaster. Every other country in the G7 experienced a recession that media wanted to see in America, that Republicans wanted to see in America, that pundits wanted to see in America, but we didn't see in America. We kept talking about the recession's coming, the recession's coming, the recession's coming. This man's strong, solid economic and fiscal policies avoided that outcome in America, despite the fact that corporations did all they could with greedflation and all they could with corporate greed to make it happen. We have still been able to avoid it because he knows what he's doing and he's seen it before and he's put policies in place to avoid the worst possible outcomes. Why can't we give him credit for that?
Zach, I'm not giving him credit for that. And
you didn't. When in your
okay,
comment,
well, I will give him credit for that. Of course, he is a seasoned politician who has a wealth of knowledge that has been beneficial not only to this current administration, but to the Obama administration. But the point that I am making, and I'm going to go back to the Gen Z point, because you guys love to kind of paint this picture of us being these kind of self-centered, self-righteous. Okay, not too much. But the point that I'm making is that any generation looks for a president to be relatable to the familial and societal and social aspects of their life.
I'm sorry
that's what drives the vote of a democracy.
Sorry
it's the
that
relatability.
No Gen Z, you're not old enough to be president.
I'm not done. It does not negate the validity of their policies. It does not negate their effectiveness. But what draws us in, what drew us in to vote for Bill Clinton, what drew us in to vote for George Bush, whoever, is the relatability. And so we can't negate that.
And that's the problem with society. Because if we're looking for relatability when we're not looking at the policies and the results and the actions,
I don't disagree with you. I think
that's a problem. And I think that that's a conversation worth having. Why are we judging a candidate based on how they look like, what they are articulating, how they're expressing their viewpoint?
It has nothing to do with his looks. It has to do with
I'm not finished, right? So you have that. The other part of it is it's not just Joe Biden that you're not going to be voting for. At the end of the day, there are very competent professionals in that administration who are carrying the work. You have people like Neera Tanden who have worked on multiple campaigns and multiple administrations. You have people like Anita Dunn who are the people who are like, you have these senior advisors that are moving the needle forward and having these conversations. You also have Vice President Kamala Harris, which again, moves the needle on the back end when they're having conversations in the administration about policy and who we're going to consider in all of our stakeholders. She's an additional voice to represent people who have never been represented in that position. So when we think about it, it's not just Joe Biden. It's the numerous officials, advisors, and competent people amongst all forms and facets
100%.
of this government that are moving the needle forward. Why is it that in the State of the Union, you had the president go out there and talk about home ownership? You had the president come out there and talk about rents. These are things that people actually care about on the day-to-day basis. And we do know that state and local governments are the ones that are mostly touching on those. But you have the president of the United States getting up there and talking about these issues that attack the day-to-day Americans, the people who, the vast majority of people. So when we're thinking about it, I really want us to have this conversation with ourselves.
Right.
Why are we judging a candidate based on their quote unquote relatability, quote unquote what they look like, quote unquote how they express themselves, but then again, not looking at the policies, the accomplishments, and the actions that have been achieved?
But Brian, it has nothing to do.
Two things on that. With your comment, are you suggesting that we weren't or aren't in a period of a recession? One, and two, what major policies? So yes, he spoke about rent, and I do agree that that's important to the day-to-day lives of Americans, mortgages, all the things. But what exactly has he done for those particular issues that Americans feel?
And I'll
so
answer
I can
first
hear
and
you
then you can
talking
go.
about it, but or
We
him
are
talking
not
about it.
in a recession. The American economy is not recessed.
No, we're not.
And that is proven by the fact that
It's
the
inflated, but not
rate of
recessed.
wages has actually gone above and stands above the rate of inflation. That's just one of multiple economic indicators, including GDP, including how well our stock market is performing. All those things indicate that we are not in a recession. We have avoided a true economic crisis in this country because of the work of the Biden administration. That can't be said for Great Britain. That can't be said for New Zealand. That can't be said for Germany. But it can be said for America because America has Joe Biden. We made the right choice in 2020, and hopefully America will make the right choice again this year in 2024. Therefore, no, we're not in a recession. I'll pass it over to Brian to answer the second part of the question.
And I just wanted to say, I wanted you to say that because there are a lot of people that do believe we are in a recession.
And we're not. And the
I
other
agree.
part of it is when we talk about this recession, people, and you're saying, oh, it's inflated. The reality is that empirically and statistically, the numbers of inflation have gone down. We've seen it in the pandemic. You have 7 to 9% of that number being in inflation. We now see it that it's at 3% and lower, which trending lower, which means that
3%
according to
true.
the empirical data, and we look at the economists and the experts, inflation is down. What happens is that there is all too often corporate greed that takes the narrative that if people already believe that there's inflation, let's jack our prices up, and that's the real culprit.
I'm about to say because my eggs $10.
But
Well, that
that's
hedges
corporate
against
greed.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
corporate
yeah.
greed.
that
And that's
hedges
not-
against what even Biden spoke to related to
No, sir.
shrinkflation.
No,
yes,
sir.
he did
No,
mention
no, sir.
shrinkflation.
Shrinkflation is a part of it. It's a part of it. But no, sir. If you watch the State of the Union, he said exactly that it was 9% and now it's 3% and it's trending lower.
I don't think
It
people
is
feel
trending
that
lower,
at all.
and I don't know
3% is a
where you're buying your
fallacy.
$10 eggs. You must be
an
buying.
exaggeration,
You must be
Zack.
buying
Hello.
one of those duck embryo
Whole
eggs.
Foods, baby.
You must have gone to Whole Foods and bought one of those duck
It was an
embryo eggs
exaggeration.
that
no,
Cardi B just
but the
ate
eggs are
online
more
that where the little
expensive.
baby
Things are
duck
more
is inside.
expensive.
So say you eating baby ducks.
But here's the
God.
but here's the thing.
go to
But here's the thing as well. You want to talk about relatability. You want to talk how more.
Can I speak to that point?
But yes,
Yeah,
sure. Because I
relatability.
want to address
Because you
that.
didn't give me a moment.
Yes, go
But
ahead.
I'm saying though, this is what I'm saying, right? And as you guys know, in running a campaign and having a successful administration, it is a balancing act. And what I don't want us to do in this time of virality and this time where social media drives public opinion is negate the validity and the
That's
weight
true.
that things hold, right? So when
That's
there
true.
are videos circulating where Biden looks like he is delirious and he's kind of waving on his feet, we can't negate that. We have to answer to it. That's all I'm saying.
No, Have you seen-
have you seen-
There's value there.
I will not in any way say that there hasn't been footage that has caught the president in unflattering moments. In the same way there has been footage that
every
caught
president.
George W.
Right.
Bush looking less than his intelligent best. There has been footage that has caught, President Obama not looking very flattering, and most certainly video and footage that has caught President Trump looking at his absolute worst with makeup streaming down his face. We've seen it. That's just part of the course of how the media operates. But in addition to what I have seen in that footage, I saw a man earlier in March at the State of the Union be confident, be cognizant, be aware, and be absolutely 100% on top of the issues that are paramount to the American people. That's what I saw.
So, but we cannot reduce the importance and how consistent that footage is,
and-
how viral that footage is.
So let me say to that, because I think Zack made a really good point when we were on one of the shows, and I actually put it into one of my videos. The reality is this: when Biden got into the office, we saw a dramatic dichotomy of what presidential looks like. You had Donald Trump for 4 years, who made news every single day, who tweeted at 3:00 in the morning, was unhinged, and we thought people literally went to sleep thinking that we may be in war the next day. Like, we don't know what's going to really happen.
You're right.
We
You're
were
very
on
right.
edge every single day. What Biden showed was that he is a direct contrast. You had COVID-19. You had him trying to promote, Donald Trump promoting not wearing masks, not taking in the vaccine, not getting all these health measures. You had Biden on the other side doing that sharp contrast. His campaign stops were virtual. He had at some points just have 4 or 5 people around him with masks, where he was having these intimate conversations. He also demonstrated that he was a statesman. He had to demonstrate that he was very different than the person who we've seen for the last 4 years. So yes, it looked like he came into it with that mindset of, let me work across the aisle. Mitch McConnell and I have been friends for years outside of this place, and we may disagree on politics, but we have these conversations, and that's how government used to run. See, for the people who don't know, that's how politics was in Washington, D.C. back in the day. They may have, I'm not finished, they may have disliked each other in terms of policies and politics, but they went out to the bars, they went out to drink, they went out to eat afterwards.
Sure.
And that's how it works.
What does
So what happens is, what I'm saying is that Biden came into it trying to show that sharp contrast.
Being a
And-
statesman.
That's right.
And I appreciate what Zack said on the show, because he said, there was a little bit of a misstep, because what we understood and what he then understood was that working across the aisle wasn't going to work in the same ways that it did before. And that he was like, maybe let me give the benefit of the doubt, and maybe let's not blow up this filibuster yet, right? Because there was conversations about that. And let's not do some of these things. What he realized was, I got to take these motherfucking gloves off. And now I got to fight. And now I got to get in this ring, because y'all need to be called out. He, for the first time in history, in the State of the Union, you had a president stand up there in that chamber and call out the Supreme Court justices because of what they're ruling for overturning Roe v. Wade. You had this president do things and call people out in the middle of the speech and went off script. So how much more relatable do you want this person to be? This man went up there and called people out in ways that we wanted other presidents who were Democrats to do, and they weren't as punchy.
If you don't like him, you just don't like him. But don't blame his
Martin
age
went off
for...
script too, so I'm confused why that's such a paramount point.
Martin Lawrence has never been president. Now that
the reality,
we're aware of that,
the argument that I'm making,
it's year 3. You're just now doing it.
But
the
no,
radicalization of Republicans has been from day one.
I've been hearing this argument online ever since I've been posting about the state. When I started talking about the State of the Union, and people were like, "Well, he's only saying this now because he wants to get reelected." The reality is that there's been press briefings, there's been press releases, there's been messages, there's been all of this stuff going on before. He has gone on campaign trips, he has gone rallies, he has done speeches, he has talked about this. The administration in many different parts of the cabinet have been talking about these issues. Vice President Kamala Harris has championed reproductive rights the minute that the verdict came down. And even before that, she was on speeches talking about, and on camera talking about, the fact that IVF is coming next. This administration has had it right, but this just because this is your first time hearing it, because you may have watched the state. But so it's not your first time. So
we're talking about the
perception and the relatability to voters.
A section of America who it was their first time hearing it,
right?
Because they're not
exactly,
and they're not paying attention, and then you want to constantly put that onus back on to the White House.
Right.
And I was a victim of that as well.
Because
right?
I was
guilty of saying that it's the messaging. The White House has a messaging problem. Biden isn't messaging well. Democrats don't message well.
It matters.
It is the fact that the American people have to have a level of onus and responsibility to be informed citizens. And if you don't want to be informed, and you don't want to know what's going on, and you don't want to look at it and think critically, then that's your choice. And you are beyond the help of what this administration can provide.
You, as well as everyone here in this country, knows that has always been the ask.
That is true.
And it will never be the ask. You will not have voters that are sitting there studying CNBC. Will never be the ask. So to have that as the ethos is almost not sensible.
So there was an article that was published.
Because hallmark moments
and
matter.
That
State
really
of the
is
Union
really
matters.
proving my point of what I'm trying to say in the senses of relatability, in the sense of virality.
Yes.
I'm not saying that it has to be this this, oh my gosh, dropping moment like it was with Trump's dumbass. What I'm saying is that we have to find a way to make the knowledge accessible to this generation of voters. And it's not just Gen Z.
I agree.
It's everybody.
We
I don't
agree.
disagree with you.
We
I
agree
don't
with that.
disagree with you. That's why I am on social media.
Right.
That's why I'm bringing
You
and
do
using
good work.
all
Yes.
of the
Yes.
resources that I have at my disposal
Yeah.
to educate and get the message out. But the reality is, people are going to do what they want to do, and most of the time they're not going to necessarily be fair in the process. And what I feel I'm hearing from you is unfair. That's just what I feel.
Okay.
I feel as though it is unfair to judge President Biden for his age and say that because he
It's
is
not a judgment, it's an
81 years old,
observation.
he's not relatable to you. And I'm saying that it doesn't mean, I don't think that anyone has to relate
Relatable
to
any of
you.
us. We're not a white
President
90-year-old.
Joseph Robinette Biden is relatable to me. And let
How
me tell
in
you
the
how.
hell?
I will tell you how. President Joseph Robinette Biden is a man who's lived a life full of challenges. He made a choice
With both
to
his-
go
yes.
into politics at an early age in the same way I made a choice to go into education at an early age.
Right.
He has maintained his passion for it. He has been steadfast in his career. He has elevated his career. He has had wins and he has had losses. He has had setbacks that he never allowed to stop him. This man has lost bids for president 3 times prior. He has gone through and suffered with a brain aneurysm. He has lost his wife, his daughter, and his son over the course of a long life in public service. And I believe that those things have made him a good human being. I believe that loss in life grows you up. It changes
agree.
your perspective and it makes you a better man
100%.
because you
Fundamentally
understand
agree. Yes.
what it means to lose something. And you then get in a place where you do all that you can to ensure that other people don't have to suffer with loss. And that to me makes him relatable.
Zach, what
And
you
that to
just
me makes
said-
him a powerful president. Let me finish. And if you don't know that story, then you're not paying attention. And there is nothing that Joseph Robinette Biden can do to help you.
But does
But
that
Zach,
translate?
okay, so I
Go
knew
ahead.
that. I knew all of those things. So that's why I'm saying it's not a judgment, it's an observation. These are the things that I'm seeing in the present time. We're talking about the present time, correct? So what I'm saying though is the way that you just illustrated that was a beautiful, beautiful way of saying who this man is as a president. And what I'm saying is that you
human.
can, as a person who holds the highest level of office in this country, you can never get tired of telling that story.
Yeah. And
Because there's always a new influx of voters coming in, right? With every election, there's a new generation of people learning about someone who more than likely
But
has had a
said-
career that spans over 5 decades.
That matters.
What I'm
Listen,
saying is
that
that we have
matters
story.
when it comes to
Here's
him
the
as
thing.
a person. But
Listen.
when it comes to issues, he's had minimal momentum outside of the fiscal, speaking to the recession. I fundamentally agree. But when it comes to things that matter and hit home,
like what?
he made a big. I'm getting
You
there.
guys are
He
saying
made
that
a
he's
big
not
bet on
doing
student
it.
loans.
I'm saying
It
that
has had
you're
no
not
momentum.
saying
He didn't
it.
do it.
You're
I'm
not
just
Whoa,
saying
whoa,
it.
whoa, 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 whoa. Did you just say that he had no momentum on student loans? Because that's my favorite
Yeah,
topic.
for people who's been paying it for 45 years. If you've been
No,
paying your
That's a
student
small
loans
No,
when
no,
you
no.
graduated
No,
in
no.
1982,
No.
you're
No.
eligible.
No, that's
no,
not,
no,
that's
no,
not
no.
true.
No,
That's
no, no.
inaccurate.
Shit, people
No, no,
who've
that's
been
Of course,
paying it
I'm
for 10
exaggerating,
years.
but you get
No, no.
where I'm coming
No,
But
from.
here,
no.
but that was an exaggeration. But here are the facts.
The facts are that this administration has canceled $140 billion worth of student loans.
How much?
That's
$140
cute.
billion in student
That's
loans
how much?
already.
That's good.
$140 billion of student loans.
That's not
already.
cute. That's substantive.
That's
That's
substantive.
not cute.
We
That's
heard y'all the
substantive.
first time.
Sure.
And the reality is, it's
But
not just
who?
people. It's not just
Who?
people that when they change some of the policies that were already
Educators,
on the books,
nurses, people
Great.
in public service.
Get me the demographics. The number's great, but what subset? I would love
service
to hear.
field industries.
Yeah,
People that were
that
also
matters.
the victims of predatory for-profit colleges. A wide subset
That
of people.
matters.
Many of them coming from first-generation
stop.
college perspective.
But yes, all of that.
140 billion for 12,000
Wait,
people.
$140 billion. But see, the reason why you couldn't have what you wanted to have, right? The reason why you couldn't have the $10,000 worth of student
Because
loans
of
forgiveness,
Republicans.
20,000 is what it's going to give.
and then 20,000 for people who were Pell Grant recipients. Why didn't you get that? Why didn't you? No, I'm asking you.
Because of Republicans blocking it.
Okay, so then why are you blaming Biden when he used,
Because when we're talking about Democratic presidents
by
under legal means.
the
when
Secretary
we're
of
talking
Education.
about Democratic presidents who hedge through those barriers, I see a stark contrast between Joe Biden on student loans and Obama with Obamacare. Obama broke down every
Those
barrier.
are two different things. Those are two different
Obviously,
things.
we know that.
So then
we're
don't
talking,
even put them together.
We're talking
So
high
don't even-
level
don't even
at
do the
breaking
parallel.
through
But you can't-
the
he can- no,
barriers.
he can
Yeah,
do
I
it.
can
Break-
do
yeah,
that
break it,
because
yes.
we're talking purely about breaking through the barriers of the Republican opposition.
Why did Obama break through the barriers for the Affordable
We're
Care
not
Act?
talking about
Because,
No.
because
Why-
you,
why
the
did we
American
talk
people,
about he
gave
did it, he
President
made it
Obama
happen.
something that you didn't give to Joseph Robinette Biden.
Wait, I didn't
the
hear that. I'm
American people,
sorry.
he had control of he had control of the House and he had control of the Senate. He literally had a
Not the
super
entire
majority.
time.
And he made a choice in his first 2 years as president, while
Not
he
the
had that
entire
super
time.
majority, to push through what he thought would be the most effective and had the greatest impact to the American people. I've always said, and I want to constantly say it,
policy.
that he made a mistake. I don't believe that President Barack Hussein Obama should have made universal health care the defining thing for his administration.
Okay.
He should have made it immigration, where we would have had
I agree
a
with that.
generation
I can
of
agree
people
with
in
that.
this country who will be beholden to the to the Democratic Party, because that's why you have Cuban Americans right now beholden in Miami to the Republican Party.
Yep.
But he chose to do what was right for the majority of people and not what was right for himself or this party.
So is that
It
your
isn't what I
argument
would
when
have
it comes to relatability?
No.
No. The argument on
That it
relatability,
should
the
be-
argument on
We just
relatability is
jumped
not-
off.
But it's a.
We just jumped off.
I'm a proud Democrat. I'll make I'll shout that to the mountaintops. But it is an
a
observation.
progressive.
I'm a progressive. Okay, whatever. But I'll make this statement again. It's not a judgment. It is a observation, and I am challenging where the current administration falls in terms of relatability and the value of what the landscape is.
We gotta wrap.
we got to wrap. The reality is this: that Biden may be relatable
And y'all
to the
just
people,
can't admit
but
that.
Biden might be relatable
Aunties.
to the people based on the characteristics and traits.
Uncles.
But he also, but guess what? My argument is what I was making earlier is he may not be relatable to anybody.
And that's
but
okay.
what I'm saying is that's okay. But why are you just looking at relatability when you're not looking at the policy?
I'm
and
just
not
bringing you the point of view
accomplishments. And that's
that
okay.
was at the
But I
top
think
of
that's
my
a
mind.
problem.
So I
a lot of
think
great
the
points have been
related-
made.
I
A
know
lot
the
of great
rapping-
points have been made. We will give you Joshua has the final point and the closing moment. We will give it to our moderate conservative to wrap this up. Joshua, take it away.
So I think the policies have been effective, especially when we talk about recession and other issues that matter to people. But where the downfall is understanding the importance of virality when it comes to a world where influencers and social media does dictate the everyday decisions that people make.
That Gen Z makes. With that
I'm not
being
Gen Z.
said,
I'm not Gen Z.
but that's it. There you go. That's the end.